Welcome back to the Successful Working Parents Podcast, the podcast where we talk to successful working parents. Title still pending. My guest today, she is a communications professional, spiritual wellness coach, and mother of two. She's also my first returning guest, ladies and gentlemen, Allison Jackson. Allison, welcome to the show.
I am super excited to be back, and I love that we are reconnected again. So thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm really excited to dive back in. You were one of my very first guests, and it's almost a year later. So really, really excited to hear what you're up to. So yeah, a lot of people probably are newer subscribers and didn't hear your first episode. So would love to have like a quick background on your career and just what you're up to.
Yeah, so much has changed in a year, right? So when I was on last time, I was an online fitness and nutrition coach, corporate professional, full-time job, business, kids, all the things. Fast forward a year. So I left my company that I was with for 9 years and joined a startup. In August, I was laid off from that. So I have kind of also evolved my business at the same time. So went through some personal stuff in January with the family. And through that, realized spirituality is really super important to overall health. So while nutrition and fitness are important, they're really more secondary. So we could dive more into that, but really I'm leaning into more of the spiritual wellness realm that I think is so needed.
Awesome. Well, I love that stuff. I don't talk about that much on this podcast. We talked a little bit about meditation before, but I'm a little more woo woo than the average like 37-year-old dude. So I do like to talk about this stuff. So yeah, why don't we just dive into that? As a spiritual wellness coach, well, when you say that, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So I think in a nutshell, first, I kind of want to say, I think when people think of spirituality, they think religion, and they're two different but related, interconnected things. So
Yeah.
religion is more rules and has names, and you have different religions, whereas spirituality is really connecting with your inner self, your intuition, your spirit, all that good stuff. So when we talk about spiritual wellness, we're looking at, is there so much noise going on between the family, the work, and all the things that are you able to still listen to what you truly want? Or are you focused on the woulds, the shoulds, the musts, the have tos? So that's where I come in and really try to help people reconnect with themselves and focus on themselves, both from that aspect as well as the nutrition, the workouts, the other things we should be doing that are part of your overall wellness.
So what do you say to people that are just maybe turned off when they hear the word spiritual or spirituality?
Yeah, I think it is building awareness and education around it. So spirituality it's about sitting in stillness, right? Whether that's meditation, whether it's breath work, whether you find meditation through running, working out, swimming, like a repetitive motion. It means different things for different people. So I think it's meeting people where they are, which is similar to what I used to do, right, with nutrition and fitness coaching. It's like, where are you right now? Where do you need to be? What are you open to? So I think it's just really getting an understanding of what people think spirituality is, and then connecting with them at that point.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, you were more focused on the fitness and nutrition side of things in your coaching practice. I assume you still think those are important and these are sort of layered on top.
Yes. So as background, I was a competitive bodybuilder. So I put my body through a lot of torture that I look back on. I mean, great, obviously it was part of my journey. I don't regret anything that I've done because it brought me to where I am today. But I think both men and women really punish themselves when you look at food and workouts, no pain, no gain, right? You think of all the different sayings when really I think it's being more open to trusting yourself with feeding yourself the way you need to, working out the way you need to, versus being so restrictive and prescriptive.
Mm-hmm. Does this mean you've gone vegan?
No. Oh, hell no. No.
Okay.
I am still I love hamburgers. I love steak. I don't know if I could ever go vegan or vegetarian. There's days when maybe I don't, but for the most part, I still eat pretty much like I used to when I was training. I try to focus on healthy foods that make me feel good,
Yeah.
less processed, more whole foods. But no, I have not gone the vegan route. That is funny that you asked that, though, because I know a lot of spiritual people are like no animals, right?
Yeah. Well, not to offend all the vegans and all the spiritual people at the same time, but yeah, that was what I was wondering if that's where things had gone. So I think one of the things that I'd like to talk a lot about is burnout and work-life balance and all that stuff. And we did talk last time about how having a healthy body and taking care of your health really helps with that. how do some of these new practices and these new techniques that you're diving into help with those sorts of
Yes,
things?
yeah, that was a great point because everyone, or lots of people, are still suffering from burnout, whether it was from the pandemic or a result of the pandemic or just where you are at this point in time in your life. And I really think that creating boundaries, understanding time management, again, figuring out ways to take the space and stillness to connect with yourself is super important. So that's a lot of the things that I'm trying to build in, as well as the healthy nutrition and workout habits, right? But it really is looking at your calendar and understanding what's important to you and prioritizing that. So I'll throw it back to you, Anthony. For you, what does that look like for you when you kind of carve out time for yourself?
Well, I am a big meditator. Actually, I tried to do and now it's really like 10 minutes now that I have a kid and just a lot more going on. But there was a time when I was trying to do 20 minutes a day. I try to do 10 minutes a day, and I also try to carve out time to exercise. Can't really do both in the morning anymore either. I used to like have more of a morning routine that involved reading and all that good stuff. But I try to do one of the things. But I try to work out a few days a week, and I try to meditate a few mornings a week as well.
I love that. And I think that that's part of it too, right? It's being flexible and adaptable and having grace with yourself. Like, you have a baby. You need, you'll come back maybe to that original schedule you had, but right now it's very fluid and you kind of need to kind of ebb and flow with your family. And I would say that to your listeners as well, is really kind of looking at your schedule and what's going on in your life. Like I mentioned, I had a health issue with the family that completely turned my routine upside down. And I had to be
Yeah.
okay with not doing the meditations and the workouts and the things I was used to doing, and finding other ways to fill my cup and kind of reset.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I also think about is it can be a little overkill sometimes, right? Like you could develop like a 2 hour morning grounding routine before you even start your day. And so I think it is actually sometimes helpful to be busier because then you have to just do something for like 20 minutes instead of an hour and a half. I'm curious if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah. It's I would agree. It's making sure that you're okay with 5 or 10 or 20 minutes. Maybe it's not the usual time you do it, but that you recognize when you do get to that point when you are so busy that maybe you're completely overwhelmed or you can't get, your head straight. Maybe it's, closing the computer, going for a walk, or maybe it's just, doing some breath work. But to your point, I think it is just, again, knowing yourself enough to know when you need a reset or a break.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the specifics of a spiritual practice. So beyond eating healthy and exercise, like what are some of the actual things that we're talking about?
Yeah. So getting outside, getting back into nature, whether that, depending on where you live, if you have access to like a park, to woods, taking like just mindful pauses throughout the day, just taking a walk, going outside. It could also be whatever you're doing, whether it's making a cup of coffee or reading, really being in the moment, being present. And that's what the meditation is about, right? It's about building the brain muscle to be mindful. So
Yeah.
look for mindful things throughout your day. When you're talking to your spouse or to your children, really being present. Don't be on your phone. Don't like be distracted. And I think that's something everyone could really use more practice in, right? Is being mindful, and it's going to help you whether it's with your family, your career, your business, and yourself. Really being focused on yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there a certain meditation practice or technique that you like, or like do you get prescriptive with it, or what are your suggestions if somebody wants to get into meditation?
So there's a new one I've been trying that I actually really like, because a lot of people are like, I can't focus, or I can't, kind of sit still. And it's using your fingers. And I know everyone can't see me because I'm on a podcast, but touching your thumb to your pointer, your middle, your ring, and your pinky, and just say, peace is within me. And when you kind of combine the hand motions with that mantra in your mind, it keeps you focused so that it doesn't allow, because I know a lot of people, like, I get the monkey brain, like I get the thoughts and the spin, the hamster wheel, right? Even envisioning a hamster on a wheel and just slowing down the wheel. So, different things work for different people. So I don't want to say you have to sit and meditate or you have to sit and do breath work. There's meditation, breath work, tapping, emotional freedom technique, the tapping, the different circadian, parts of your body.
Yeah.
But it's really what works best for you. And everyone is so different. Some days meditation's great. Some days I like to journal. Journal is another, like writing. There's a technique I had read about that is wonderful. So when you wake up, you're really still in those theta brain waves. You're really like, you're just coming out of like being like in your subconscious. It's a great time to just journal, just to free write like 3 pages of just what's on your brain. Because a lot of times it's amazing what might come out. It might be ideas, it might be just clearing your head. But someone once said to me that meditation is the equivalent of, for your brain, what it is to like brush your teeth or brush your hair. Like you want to go out into the world without doing those things, hopefully, most
Yeah.
likely. So you want to make sure that for your brain, you have a way to do that, whether it's meditation, journaling, breath, like just a way to just clear your mind to make sure that you're showing up in the best way possible.
When it comes to journaling, one thing that I've not struggled with, but one thing I think about is like the writing of it physically versus the typing. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that, because I just find it so much easier to type, but I do hear people say it's really, there's a different value in the actual art of writing it.
Yeah, I'm going to say whatever works for you, but that there is something a lot of times when you're writing, sometimes when you get deep, almost into a meditative state, you'll be writing and it's almost like your intuition takes over and you start writing and you're like, oh, where's this coming from? Like sometimes you'll write in ways that you're like, or ideas will come and you're like, where is this even coming from? And I just find that physically writing is the way to get there. But if typing works for you and that's what you have at hand, a lot of times I'll want to be on a treadmill doing like just a meditative walk, like just zoning out, and ideas will come to me and I'll open up my Google Keep or like a notes app and just write down, or type ideas. So, I don't want to prescribe any one way, but I would say give them all a try.
Yeah. You mentioned tapping before. That's something that I am familiar with. I always found it to be what, not like silly, but just on like the more fringe side of things. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and maybe a story of somebody who was maybe skeptical about it and found it very helpful, or anything you'd like to say about it.
I have all the above. So
Okay.
if you have not tried it, it's called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's tapping. Brad Yates is amazing. He's like the guru. He's on YouTube. Just look it up. Go on there. He has all different kinds. It's been scientifically proven. I've had people on my podcast, like people that are like masters of it. They've done studies that have shown, they did a test on like college kids, and it's actually been shown to reduce anxiety before test taking. So they had college students try it before, like a group that did it before testing, a group
Yeah.
that did it without. So it has been shown to reduce anxiety. And I'll share that my husband has been suffering from anxiety, and he was like, I'll try anything. And he tried the tapping, and he's like, he was the same way, right? He's like, how is this going to help me?
Yeah.
And he said it found it incredibly helpful and relaxing. And I don't know if it's because you are occupying your hands and your mind with different parts of your body, but for anyone that does struggle with anxiety, or your heart racing, like you're in a panic, look up a YouTube video and just try it and give it a shot. I think you might be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, because for those that don't know, you literally are like tapping parts of like mostly your face and your
Yeah.
hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like the top of your head. It's like your third eye. It's underneath your eye, underneath your nose, underneath your bottom lip on your chin,
Yeah.
your collarbone, and then like underneath, like just below your armpit. So definitely, it feels weird. You're like, I don't know why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But yeah, you might be surprised.
Yeah, and I've heard of, specifically with kids, like parents and schools doing it, to like the school nurse doing it to help kids relax and things like that.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
How do some of these practices apply to parenting?
Yeah, great question. So my children are older. I have a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old, but for younger children and older children, I think it's really introducing some of these practices so that they have other tools that they can use, whether it's journaling, meditation, tapping, breath work, helping them understand that there are options if they are stressed or trying to manage anxiety, opening them up to new things. Because I think, obviously kids are much more open to things than adults are, especially the younger ones, but giving them any kind of tools, I think, is hugely beneficial.
If someone's dealing with burnout or just work stress, what technique do you think it would be the most effective for that?
I would say understanding maybe, so for burnout, it's like looking at what's changed, right? So when were you at your happiest at maybe in that role, in that position with whatever you're dealing with? Because, burnout could also be relationships. It could be a job. It could be a lot of different things. So
Yeah.
when were you your happiest? And then what does it look like now? And trying to find like, well, what changed? And if that's, if it's like, oh, it's always been like this, or it's like you can't get there, what are some ways, whether it's creating boundaries, whether it's managing the stress, right? Carving out time to tap or breathe or meditate. And then also looking at stepping away. So at my previous job, I took a 2-month sabbatical. I was at a point where I was like, my son was getting ready to go to college. I felt like very burnt out from work. So I took 2 months and I did nothing. Like everyone's like, oh, you got to travel, you got to do this. I was like, no, I really just don't want to do anything. I just want to just be with myself for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I found that is very helpful if you're a company or organization, or if you have the option to do that, to try that.
Yeah, absolutely. What about sound healing? What are your thoughts on that?
So, we didn't get into sound healing. So I recently became a certified sound healer in September, and it is amazing. So sound healing, for those that don't know, most of your body is water. So the vibrations from the music, it actually helps you heal on a cellular level. So I know it's like the woo factor, I know might be high for some
it's
folks.
Up there. It's definitely up there.
Yeah. Like when I say sound bath, people are like, do I get to keep my clothes on? And I'm like, no, fully clothed. It's a combination of, I have crystal bowls, I have chimes. I really want to get a gong. But anyway, there's different frequencies, and different frequencies heal at different levels. So it's just fascinating. If you have not tried sound healing, I highly recommend. I'm trying to bring it. So that's part of my mission, or my new mission, is bringing it to corporations, to get people to come together, to heal together, to understand different modalities that can help them with the burnout, with the stress. Because I really think that's how companies are going to get employees back into the office, giving them things that benefit them, and help them feel better.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like meditation just started to make its way into the corporate world, and now it's like maybe we can get them to do a sound bath next.
Yes, I love it.
And what about Reiki? Are you into that?
So I am just learning about Reiki, and I'm actually contemplating getting, a certification in it. So Reiki, for those that may not know, it's just, again, it's another form of energy healing, and it's actually becoming more and more mainstream. So you're going to be finding that more hospitals and actual doctors of regular medicine are incorporating these types of things like meditation and Reiki and different types of energy work. I'm really starting to dig in deep to the chakras, to the different energy points throughout our body. And it's fascinating. Obviously, this has been, thousands of years, especially when you look at like acupuncture and different things. We really, a lot of the things that happen to us are so based in our thoughts as well as how we were raised, that it's just, I could talk all day about just the different energy healing, energy work. I'm reading, and I'm like a sponge. Like I just can't get enough of how we can almost heal ourselves when we know enough about ourselves.
Yeah, the energy work is a tough one for me. Meditation, it's like you do it to yourself, and I've seen the benefits of it. You're talking about the sound bath thing, like, okay, I can get behind that. Like the vibrations are an actual thing that's happening. But then when you get into like just without touching the person and without making any sound, like you're actually able to affect them, I feel like that's when my woundness like kind of runs out.
That's when your woo-ness runs out, right?
Yeah.
So I was in the same camp, I have to tell you, until so with sound healing, I'm now in like this group of healers. And for the first time, I tried energy healing just to see. And it's no different than when you clap your hands together and rub them together, you could actually feel like heat and energy. Like we all have like an aura, like an energy field around us. And when you think about like your heart, when your heart stops and they shock it back, like you use energy to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds very woo and out there, but we are all like energetic beings.
Sure,
like when we pass, it's like that sparkle in your eye, that your soul. I don't know. I'm with you. I know.
Well, we are just like a bunch of molecules vibrating.
Yes.
I do agree with that.
Yes.
I mean, it's true. I don't have to agree with it. It's just a fact.
I know. But it is hard to get the camp that are non-believers into the camp that are like, nope, I get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I totally get it.
But I mean, I think these are important conversations to have, because especially if there's actual value in these practices, then the more people that, I mean, meditation is, I think, is a perfect example of something that was super weird even like 10 years ago. I started
Yes.
doing it in like, I think about 10 years ago, like 2014, and it just wasn't as cool of a thing to do. And now I think everybody's at least tried it.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. And it's funny because I heard something that said, and again, this is not trying to be religious, but they say when you pray, when you ask for something, whether it's from God, source, universe, whoever you think your being is, when you pray, you ask, and when you meditate, you hear.
Mm,
So
interesting.
when you meditate, it's like they always say everything you need is within you, but
Yeah.
it's taking the time and space to actually hear what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think about the idea that there is just this energy in the whole universe that we're all in some way connected to. It's cool. It's a cool thought, and there's some way you can, like, impress upon it and receive from it. And maybe that's something that science will actually one day be able to measure, and that would probably help a lot of the skepticism. But I love the idea of it, and it's hard to wrap your head around, and it's hard to talk about sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I think quantum physics, if you want to dig into the science of it, that talks a lot about it. But
Yeah,
I think that everything is by design. There are no mistakes, or like you talk about serendipity and everything happens for a reason. I think everything happens by design. People are put on each other's paths for a reason. I'm really going to go woo. The angel numbers, all the different little signs that you see that like, ladybugs and different things that,
yeah.
and I know I'm like
We're
really,
going. Yeah, now we're
we're
going.
going
Now
way
we're
out
going
there. But if
there.
you start to look for them and you see them pop up, you're like, holy crap.
Wow. Yeah. No, I mean, it's really interesting to think about that kind of stuff, for sure.
Totally.
What
Totally.
else? What else do you think is important about this sort of spiritual practice? Like, what else would you want people to look into more, or if people could learn one other thing, what would you want them to learn?
I would want you to look at things with positive intent. I feel like everyone looks at everyone else and things that are happening as, oh, this is horrible. Why is this happening to me? Like that victim mentality. If you look at everything with, and I don't know, I'm going to get squishy and woo, but like look at everything with love versus fear. I think it'll give you a different perspective. Like people look at uncertainty, like, I was laid off, lots of people are laid off, and we look at it like, and you have this, oh my God, I'm so afraid. But if you look at it, and uncertainty doesn't need to be scary. It could be exciting. It could be like, oh my gosh, there's new opportunities out there I haven't even discovered yet, versus the panic, the scarcity, the fear. It just feels better when you look at it in the positive and in a good way, that there's going to be a good outcome versus the negative. I think a lot of people get caught in that fear. They're gripped by fear.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. And it's not easy. I'm not saying like, yeah, everything is rainbow and sunshine. It's not. But if you just kind of keep that positive mindset and do what you need to do to stay there, that's going to help you.
Well, I mean, that's a great point. And that's another thing I hear and think about, is some of the criticism is this concept of like spiritual spackling, right? Where you're just sort of throwing these woo woo things at what could be a more serious issue and more serious problem, and never really like kind of getting to the bottom of it. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So toxic positivity, that is a real thing.
Yeah.
And so when I say, look at it with love in your eyes versus fear, that also means like feel all the emotions. Like when you're angry, get angry and work through that and figure out ways to release that anger. Same for the kids. My daughter wakes up in the wrong bed. I'm not going to be like, oh, you should be positive today. No, like you're angry. You have to go to school. You don't want to wake up. You're crabby. Sit in it, feel it, right?
Yeah.
It sucks, but guess what? This is part of adulting, which you're a young adult. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, I totally agree with you when we talk about. It's funny the way you said it, right? The spackling. I think it's important to feel all your feelings at the end of the day. And doing what you need to do, right? So for anger, for me, what I love to do, I'll give this one. It's a good stress reliever. When you're in the car by yourself, scream as loud as you can, because people can't hear you. Hopefully they can't hear you, but
Yeah.
that's like my favorite, or scream into a pillow or punch a pillow, whatever. But yeah, that's my favorite one. But yeah, it's just feeling all the feelings. And when you are feeling crappy, sit in it and feel it. Just don't wallow, right? Sit in it, feel it, and then move on.
Yeah, that's tough to do in New York City. I'm gonna have to pay an Uber driver and ask him to maybe step outside for a moment so I can scream in the car. But there's probably 100 people within earshot of me at all times. So
But wait, doesn't New York have rage rooms? Aren't those rooms where you could just smash stuff?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they do
Yeah.
have that. That's a
There
good
you go.
idea too. I'll have
Yeah.
to look into that. But then you get, that ain't free, but I'll look into that as well. But no, I really like that, I think that's a really good way to frame it about the spirituality versus the toxic positivity. I mean, I suppose you could take anything too far, right? Even fitness and nutrition can get
Yes.
toxic when
Yes,
when
for sure.
hurled out in the wrong doses. How do you feel like some of these spiritual practices you picked up in the last year have helped with your parenting and just the way you are a parent?
I think it's helped immensely. So it's given me a lot of patience and perspective, helping me to look at, especially for my, for those of us with teenage daughters, which you'll get there. But
Hmm.
the teenage daughter relationship can be very contentious.
Hmm. I have a sister. I've seen it in
Okay, there you
action.
go. There you go. So, but I think any parenting, right? I know sometimes men and sons, fathers and sons have the same thing. I think it's really um, kind of taking a step back and giving them almost a little bit of more leeway and freedom and kind of being more mindful and sitting and really listening and hearing it from their perspective. And it's hard, right? Because you're looking at them like trying to remember what it was like being at that age.
Yeah.
But I think just being more open and patient and that I think has probably helped me the most. And I think it's the meditation practice has really helped.
Yeah.
Apologies if you can hear my dog.
That's okay. I heard him a couple of times, but it's all good. Um, all right. Well, we're going to move into the final segment called Allison's Advice Corner. Okay. So I'm going to ask you for some advice on a few topics. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what advice do you have when it comes to work-life balance?
Work-life balance, I would say, is create boundaries and really be a ninja with your time management. So really just making sure that, when you have meetings, you're in meetings. And I would also say, try not to check your email every 5 minutes like I do.
Hmm.
Have like certain times when you check it, but boundaries definitely for sure.
What advice do you have for self-care?
Self-care, I would say, take the time you need, whether it's to meditate, work out, and whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, but definitely take time throughout the day to recharge the batteries and really look at your energy and manage your energy. So some people work great in the morning, some work great at night. Managing to that is key.
So we've already talked about how you have to do what works best for you and you can't do all the things. But for somebody who's listening who's like wants prescription, what would you prescribe as the perfect morning routine?
Perfect morning routine. Okay, in Allison's bubble world, I would say the perfect morning routine is you wake up, you meditate for 15 or 20 minutes, journal after that, read, work out, and then have your coffee, start your day, and on you go.
Okay. There's no ladybugs in that morning
There's no
routine?
ladybugs or angel numbers.
Okay.
There might be. There's always angel numbers that pop up on my treadmill. So,
You never know. Yeah. What advice do you have for somebody who is about to become a parent but still has a career they want to focus on?
ooh, good one. I would say, even though I know people are going to be still very ambitious with their careers, once you have that child, your whole world changes. Your priorities shift. Everything shifts, and just know that your little ones are only little for a certain amount of time, but that they don't remember anything until they're like toddlers. So while you may I had so much guilt putting my children in daycare. They don't remember a lot of that. They don't remember it all, I should say. My daughters remember stuff from when she was 10 years old, which kills me. But when they're little, they don't remember. So just release the guilt, do the best you can in the moment, right? That's all we're all doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, focus on your priorities, which most likely will be your family. Your career is always going to be there.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
Don't think about it so much. We overthink everything. We overthink everything from
Yeah.
parenting to work to ourselves. Don't overthink it. Go with your gut.
What advice would you give to your former self?
Don't worry about the things you can't control. I
Yeah,
think
I
we
like
do
that
that.
one.
I think we do that a lot. And even as grown-ups, we we probably should do more of that.
Yeah. Okay, last question. And I don't think I asked you this last time, but I do ask every guest this: what advice they have for me. By the time this episode comes out, I think my daughter will be about 9 months old. So, what advice do you have for me as a father of a 9-month-old daughter?
Oh my gosh, that is like 6 to 9 months is just like the best time. They're
Yeah.
just the personalities and stuff. I would say really be in the moment with your daughter. Remember as much as you can, because a lot of it's a blur of bottles and diapers.
Hmm.
Just really remember that. Remember it and enjoy it.
Yeah,
That's what I would say, because it goes by really fast.
I love it. Well, Allison, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect with you or learn more about you or anything that you like to share?
Yeah, so you could go to my website, Allison Rose Jackson, 2 L's and an I in Allison. And I'm on social media, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm really leaning into LinkedIn, so you can find me there. And I would love to connect with your listeners and learn more about them.
Awesome. Well, I'll link to all that in the show notes. Allison Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. Allison, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anthony.